In this episode, we will explore 10 questions to understand the complexities of the dispute in the Nigerian oil sector, its implications for the Dangote oil refinery, the regulatory environment, and the broader Nigerian economy. Let's start. What is the main issue? Ever since its grand opening last year, Dangote oil refinery has had trouble securing enough quantity of crude oil to run at full capacity. Precisely, the refinery is struggling to obtain its full crude oil requirements from domestic production and has to purchase Nigerian crude oil from international traders at a $3 to $4 premium. In their latest statement, Dangote oil refinery highlights several points of the dispute. The refinery requires 15 cargoes of crude oil for September, but has only been allocated 6 by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Despite appealing to the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, the refinery has been unable to secure the remaining cargoes. The refinery often has to purchase the same Nigerian crude from international traders at a premium, which significantly increases operational costs and translates to an additional $3 to $4 million per cargo. Who are the key players involved in the dispute? In order of importance, the main parties involved in this dispute are Dangote Oil Refinery, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, and the international oil companies, IOCs, including Shell, Total Energies, Chevron, and ExxonMobil. What is the domestic crude supply obligation, and why is it important? The domestic crude supply obligation is a critical regulatory framework established under the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. It was designed to enhance the supply of crude oil to local refineries and ensure economic stability in Nigeria's oil sector. It mandates that all crude oil producers allocate a specified percentage of their produced crude oil for sale in the domestic market, ensuring that domestic refiners have access to the feedstock they need to operate. The crude oil sold under the DCSO can only be sold to operating refineries, which are classified as qualified buyers. The price for the crude oil supplied under the DCSO is subject to negotiations between the parties, taking into account prevailing international crude oil prices. Payment may be made in either United States dollars or Nigerian naira. The NUPRC is tasked with enforcing the DCSO and has called on crude oil producers to provide details of their committed and uncommitted barrels to enhance transparency in the supply process. Dangote Oil Refinery accuses the NUPRC of being reluctant to enforce the DCSO, failing to ensure that the refinery receives its full crude oil needs from suppliers such as the NNPC and international oil companies. Is the NUPRC enforcing the DCSO? The Commission has denied all allegations of reluctance in enforcing the DCSO. It asserts that it has facilitated substantial crude oil supplies to local refineries, including over 29 million barrels to Dangote alone in the first half of 2024. The NUPRC emphasizes its commitment to ensuring a steady supply of crude oil to local refineries and has established a working committee involving various stakeholders to comply. The Commission acknowledges that challenges exist, such as contractual commitments and the overall complexities of the oil production landscape. Are international oil companies not compliant? The international oil companies seem to prefer selling crude to international traders at higher prices rather than directly to local refineries. They cite pre-existing contractual obligations as a major constraint. The oil companies are still pushing local refineries to sign supply agreements with their trading agencies. This allows the crude to be priced and paid for as if it was an international sale, defeating the purpose of the NUPRC guidelines. Oil companies and the NUPRC disagree over how the price for local refineries should be determined. The NUPRC wants to ensure the pricing is favorable to the local refiners, but the oil companies argue that this is essentially price control. Does the NUPRC engage in price control or lack enforcement? The NUPRC finds itself in a difficult position, trying to enforce the DCSO to ensure local refineries have access to crude oil while also navigating the concerns of IOCs regarding pricing. One side accuses the Commission of weak enforcement of the domestic crude supply obligation in favor of oil companies. The other side alleges attempts at price control in favor of local refineries. The Balancing Act of the NUPRC seeks to promote local refining capacity while maintaining a viable investment climate for international oil companies. The Commission has rejected the notion that it is imposing price controls, asserting that it operates under a willing buyer, willing seller framework, meaning prices for crude oil should be negotiated between the refineries and the producers, rather than dictated by the NUPRC. Does Dangote Oil Refinery produce an inferior product? The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, or NMDPRA, is responsible for regulating midstream and downstream operations in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. This includes overseeing the activities of refineries, ensuring compliance with industry standards, and managing the supply of petroleum products. The authority has raised concerns about the quality of diesel produced by Dangote Refinery, stating that it is inferior to imported diesel. The authority CEO has suggested that the refinery's diesel does not meet the required specifications, mainly sulfur content and flash point. The refinery, in response, has firmly rejected these claims, asserting that its products meet stringent international quality standards. Aliko Dangote even challenged the authority to come and conduct extensive tests of the refinery's products at any time. He called as well for an investigation into the contradictory claims between the NMDPRA and his refinery, suggesting that there might be ulterior motives behind the regulatory body's stance. How has the dispute impacted Dangote Refinery operations? It has significantly impacted Dangote Refinery's operations. The crude supply shortages have forced the refinery to operate at only 50% capacity and purchase crude from international traders at a premium, significantly increasing its operational costs. The ongoing conflict with regulatory bodies has created an unstable operational environment. Dangote's management has claimed that the NMDPRA's actions have hindered the refinery's ability to penetrate local markets effectively, leading to operational challenges and increased costs due to reliance on international traders for crude oil at a premium price. There are allegations that the authority's statements and actions could be an attempt to demarket and sabotage Dangote Oil Refinery, potentially undermining its reputation and market position to favor imported products. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has urged regulatory bodies to promote local investments rather than cast doubt on their credibility. Did the Nigerian government intervene in the dispute? The Federal Executive Council approved a policy shift complementing the DCSO, ensuring local refiners access to Nigerian crude oil paid in the local currency rather than US dollars. Paying crude in dollars exposes refineries to foreign exchange fluctuations and increases their costs. Buying in Naira helps stabilize their finances and makes crude more affordable. This policy shift enhances their ability to operate profitably. This is crucial for the success of the Dangote refinery and other local players. However, challenges remain in ensuring compliance of the international oil companies with the crude supply guidelines and pricing terms. The House of Representatives in Nigeria has decided to investigate the allegations of conspiracy by international oil companies against Dangote refinery. This scrutiny reflects the broader implications of the dispute. It raises questions about the regulatory environment and the potential impact it can have on foreign direct investment in Nigeria, as well as the impact on the local fuel market. What are the broader implications of this dispute for Nigeria's oil and gas sector? The ongoing disputes over crude oil supply and regulatory interventions threaten the operational viability of Dangote Oil Refinery, which is crucial for reducing Nigeria's dependency on imported refined products. The scrutiny of the regulatory environment, particularly regarding the actions of the NMDPRA and the NUPRC, raises questions about the stability and predictability of Nigeria's oil and gas regulations. The conflict highlights concerns about monopolistic practices from both Dangote and international oil companies. The involvement of the Nigerian House of Representatives points to the political ramifications of the conflict. This legislative implication can lead to policy changes and increased accountability for regulatory bodies. However, it also reveals the potential for political interference in the operations of the oil sector.